Charlie Winter is Senior Research Fellow at the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation and Political Violence. Welcome to the studio.
Hi.
What have Islamic State been saying this morning?
They've been saying very little. I've actually been tracking their communications really, really closely for the last 48 hours to see precisely what it is they are communicating about what happened in London. And besides the 20-word or 25-word claim where they literally just said that he was a soldier of the Islamic State responding to their calls to attack civilians in coalition nations, they haven't said anything. They've released in that time since a couple of radio programs, so 20 minutes each. They've released a 12,000-word newspaper. They've released operational digests that they do in the mornings and evenings, and London hasn't been mentioned once. Just today, there's been a photo report looking at rainfall in Euphrates province, which spans the Iraqi-Syria border, and also a report, an operation claim from the Caucasus province, but nothing about London, and it's really striking to me. I look at this all the time, and it's very strange.
It's very strange. What does it suggest to you?
To me, it looks like Islamic State had reason to be confident that there was some sort of link, but it was blindsided by the attack itself. To me, it looks like, and this is based on how it's reacted to all attacks that have happened in the last few months, last year even, it's operating in a very different way, but it's framing the attack, at least framing the attack, as something that it inspired but didn't have an instructive logistical role in. And I think that's really, really important. That nuance there holds the key to how counterterrorism practitioners respond to it, because it's a very, very different problem.
Why is it such a different problem? I mean, clearly the police do think it is absolutely central to find out whether it happened abroad or happened through the internet or happened in prison. Why does it matter so much?
Well, I think the question of why he was radicalised, that is very, very important. But in terms of the current threat picture that we are presented with today, what's really important, most important for me, is the extent of Islamic State's role in this attack. And the reason that matters is because it's a very different threat if it's providing logistical advice. There's communication between this individual and Islamic State's external operations division in Syria or Iraq, and possibly even logistical support. All of that I don't think is actually the case. Certainly from what we've got before us, it doesn't look like that's the case. But if it's merely this man acting on his own volition, he's a fan of the Islamic State, he wants to do something in its name, he's probably a bit unhinged and certainly radicalised, that's a different thing. It's the age that we live in is one of unsophisticated tactics but high-impact terrorism. And I think that this is the kind of attack that we've been expecting to see in the UK for so long, because it's much more difficult to defend against than something which involves the procurement of explosives, the buying of weapons, all of these things that have a trail behind them.
It's obviously a terrible crime. Nobody's suggesting anything else, but the security services must be relatively pleased that it's at this sort of level with a car and a knife rather than what you're talking about, bombs and sophisticated plots.
You're absolutely right that it's definitely an atrocity, but the scale of it is something which is different to, say, Paris or Brussels, and the necessities required to actually carry out the operation. He had to rent a car. He wasn't very clever about that. He used his real name. He had to get a knife. That's not a particularly difficult thing to do either. It's much, much more difficult to get weaponry and buy explosives. And Islamic State does try and encourage its supporters to do that. It produced a video where it gave instructions and showed a guy making explosives. And it does try to get people to do that, but evidently it wasn't possible for this individual. And it broadly is a microcosm of what the terrorist threat that we face in the UK is today.
Charlie Winter from the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation and Political Violence, thanks very much.